It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there.
Good evening, everybody. You're watching America First. My name is Nicholas J. Fuentes. We have a great show for you tonight. Very excited to be back here with you tonight on Thursday. We have a lot to talk about tonight, lots to get into. Big show. Our featured story, we're talking all about ICE. Uh-oh. What's going on with mass deportations? I thought that was still happening. What's going on, guys? We getting what we voted for? Are we getting what we voted for? Remember that? Got what I voted for? Yeah. Well, now it's February 2026, and it's already done. And it's already cooked. You're finished. It's over. They're already telling us. So funny. I saw a tweet today from one of these Republicans. They said, we got to get it back on track in 2026, and then we're going to push through to 28. It's like, wow. We're already doing that, huh? So we'll get into it tonight. Our featured story, we're talking about this new Trump interview on NBC. Did you see this? Get a load of this. Trump goes on NBC, and they finally ask him the question. They say, are we still doing mass deportations or not? They said, are we deporting every illegal alien or just the criminals? He says, just the criminals. He said, we're going to focus on the criminals, just the criminals. That's what we're doing. And then he proceeds to totally undercut everything they've been doing. He says, we need a softer touch. He said the death of those agitators was a tragedy and a mistake, and they shouldn't have died. They're going to put body cameras on ICE because it's like George Floyd all over again. And here's to top it all off. Tom Homan says they're withdrawing 700 ICE agents from the city. And they're going to prepare to withdraw all the ICE agents that were deployed in this special operation. Amazing. And what's amazing about it, do you remember when all of this went down 3 or 4 weeks ago in January? Rene was shot. Very quickly, Alex Preddy was shot. It was obvious this was going to happen. Anybody with eyeballs could see. Anybody with a brain could see that Trump was going to cave. That's where it was headed. That is what he was signaling towards. It was so obvious. Do you remember what people were saying on the timeline, the kind of delusion? I saw one guy, they're all armchair generals, all LARPing like they're tacticians. I saw one guy saying, no, this is what you want to happen. This is a war of attrition, and the left has to deploy their reserves, and their supply lines are long, and Trump is... Yeah, it's five-dimensional chess, right? It's always five-dimensional chess. It's all part of the plan. The cope in January was unbelievable. Every day, these Trump shills. It's like Trump derangement syndrome in the other direction. These Trump shills were on Twitter every single day saying, see, Trump isn't backing down. See, he's not totally going to cave. Okay, well, he obviously is now. Total surrender, total capitulation, total walk back in every way. It's just not even a question anymore. They pulled Bovino out. They took 700 ICE agents out. They say they're going to take more ICE agents out. They're putting body cameras on them. Trump says it's a softer touch. You have Homan over there giving a press conference saying, yeah, it's not perfect and we're making mistakes and we're going to correct everybody. And in the end, Trump says no more mass deportations of illegal aliens. Told you so. I told you it would be this way. So we'll get into that. We're also going to talk tonight about the negotiations with Iran, which are going to take place in only a few hours. 10 a.m. Middle East time. Steve Witkoff and the foreign minister of Iran will negotiate indirectly in Muscat, in Oman, in the Gulf, the Arabian Peninsula. And it looks like this is going to be the final ultimatum before we go to war. And the United States has issued a proposal. This is going to be a framework. And this is in collaboration with, I believe it's 7 other Muslim countries: Egypt, Turkey, Emirates, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan. I think that's, and Oman. I believe Oman is the 7th there. I didn't count them just now, but those are all the countries that are coming together. It's a multilateral negotiation. These countries begged the United States to reconsider negotiations after they were canceled a couple of days ago over Iran's request to change the venue at the last minute. The United States agreed to the venue change. They moved it to Oman, and they agreed to do the talks and follow through. These countries put together a framework proposal that includes a non-aggression pact, I guess it's called, a mutual non-aggression agreement. Iran agrees not to use its missiles against the United States or its allies. The United States agrees not to attack Iran or its allies. Iran agrees no enrichment for 3 years. After that, they can enrich at 1.5%. Iran gives up its highly enriched uranium stockpile to a third country. And this was the framework proposal. Here's the problem. Iran has not changed its position. They have not come off of their red line, which is that they don't want to negotiate about anything. They don't even want to talk about missiles. They don't even want to talk about proxies. And as far as enrichment is concerned, they don't want to stop enriching uranium. So that position has not changed at all. And the same is true with the United States. It seems that even to this day, this morning, there's some last-minute confusion. What even is the U.S. position? The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, insists that we're still going to try to negotiate on missiles, proxies, nuclear. So long story short, we are at an impasse. These are irreconcilable differences still. It hasn't changed at all since a year ago, since 2018, when the original JCPOA was torn up. Nothing has changed. And so if this is the last meeting, if this is a take it or leave it proposal, well, it looks like Iran is going to leave it. And that means we're going to war. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Like I said, those negotiations are going to start in only a few hours. So we should know soon, before tomorrow afternoon, what the outcome is going to be. At the last minute, there was a warning by the United States for all U.S. citizens to leave Iran. People are freaking out. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. That's just a signal. Obviously, it's an indication that the United States is gearing up for war. It's just a signal. They're just telling Iran, hey, we're serious. We're going to war. I don't think it tells us anything, actually. Wouldn't read too much into it. But we'll talk about all that. It's going to be a great show. I'm sorry I wasn't here last night. Honestly, I woke up at 9 o'clock. I was like asleep in the evening. I took like a nap. I woke up at 9 o'clock and it was... You know when you wake up and you're just like, you want to go right back to bed? I like woke up at 9, checked my phone. I was like, nope, no way. So I barely even typed it out. I'm like, not doing a show tonight. I'll be back tomorrow. I just went back to bed. But I'm here tonight and yeah, it's going to be a good show. Before we get into the news, I want to remind you to smash the follow button, smash the like button, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the show. Not like I read the comments. Check out our merch store, Fuentes.store. Get your USA quarter zip. Get the USA quarter zip. You got to show it off. This is now like a cultural artifact. This is like a serious cultural artifact. It's like the AF hat. It's like the I'm with Groyper t-shirt. You're going to want this. This is now becoming like a collectible item. We're not going to sell it forever. We're probably going to take it off the store, who knows, in a few weeks, maybe a few years. And it's going to become like a collectible. You're going to want this to be a part of your collection. You don't want to miss out on this. This is an historic moment. Even if you don't agree with it, it's iconic, indisputably. So check it out, Fuentes.store. Subscribe to show your support for an America First Plus membership. People are always asking me, what can I do for the movement? Give me your money. $15 a month, that's not a lot of money. You give the Jews at Netflix far more. $15 a month, America First Plus. You get access to the whole archive, plus MP3 format for everything, RSS feed, all of it. It's on the site. I think it works better than Rumble. Subscription site has more content, better than Rumble, and it's a great way to support the show. If you really want to support us, $100 a month, and you get access to a group chat with me. I've been in there all day today. Testimonials will tell you I was in there all day today talking about everything, talking about immigration, about Elijah Schaffer, about all this stuff, all the drama, all the latest. It's really happening in that group chat. So I didn't do a show yesterday, but they were getting content because they are the rich. Those that have will have more. Those that have less, even what little content they have will be taken away from them. No show for you. $100, different story. So check it out, AmericaFirst.plus. One other thing before we get into the show. I have been called out again by the Vice President of the United States, JD Vance. Today in an interview, he formally condemned me. And once again, he's trying to convince me to eat shit. I don't know what to say at this point. I don't want your shit, okay? I know that's what they do in India. I know that's maybe what happens at your dinner table. I don't want it. I don't want your shit. Stop trying to get me to eat shit. I see this interview. He says, oh, I seem to recall I told Nick Fuentes to eat shit. So listen, man, I know that's how they roll where your wife is from. Good for you. I don't need any cultural enrichment. I don't want it. I don't want any of that. Thanks, but no thanks. I'm trying to be polite. I said no once. Now it's becoming sort of an imposition. It's getting to be a little bit impolite. I don't want it. Okay? I try to be nice. I politely declined. Now I have to refuse. I'm not eating it. So save it for the Indian Cultural Festival at the Naval Observatory. I'm good. I like hamburgers. I like hot dogs. I like fried chicken. I'll have the butter chicken, okay? Pass the butter chicken, all right. The curry, I'll try it. The shit, that's a little too far for me. That's a little too much cultural enrichment. It's a little too third world. I'm not that adventurous when it comes to that sort of thing. So I see the statement. He says, I condemn Nick Fuentes. I told him to eat shit. I said, buddy, I know that I did not participate in your cultural festival, but you got to let it go. I will say, though, after he officially condemned me, I am now officially Never Vance. So he said that on the interview. He said, I condemn Nick Fuentes and his supporters. Well, then we condemn you. JD Vance is officially condemned by the real America First. He is condemned by the real Americans. He's condemned by the Groypers. And you just lost a huge chunk of support or potential support. You condemn me? Well, then don't complain when we don't vote for you. We are not voting for you. I am not voting for you. I am not telling anybody to vote for you. I don't care if you're the nominee. I don't care if you win the primary. You are not getting my vote. So you just made a big mistake. Off to a rough start there. I will reserve my endorsement for a candidate that is actually willing to put America first over Israel. I'm saving my endorsement for someone that is putting America first over India. We don't need another president that puts H-1B Indians and their shit and Israel first Jews and their money over the United States of America. I condemn you. I condemn your liberal wife. I condemn your sugar daddy, Peter Thiel. I condemn Little Tech. I condemn you and your America Last administration. You should worry about this catastrophe, which is the second term. You got no mass deportations. You got no peace with Russia. You're going to war with Iran. The economy is taking a shit. And you're on an interview condemning me. I condemn you and I condemn this failing administration. Why don't you do your job? Why don't you march your little fat ass down to the Oval Office and tell this president to start deporting millions of people like you promised to do? Because if you don't, it's your ass in 2028. I got a news flash for you, pal. You can tell JD Vance and all these Republican boosters, they think that we're all going to swallow a JD Vance candidacy in 2028 and he doesn't have to fight for it. But they got another thing coming. JD Vance is the vice president. As far as I'm concerned, he owns the failures that are happening in this administration. He owns it. You resisted the Epstein files. You have not deported nearly enough people. We are on our way to strike Iran again. You're on an interview talking about a live streamer. You're on NBC condemning the Groypers. You need to focus up. You need to get your head in the game. Stop giving speeches. Stop throwing yourself in front of the cameras every time it concerns an issue that you know is going to be a campaign ad in 2028. And why don't you start governing? Why don't you start using that executive power? Why don't you start doing things then? I'm not sold on that. I don't think anybody's sold on that, and I don't think anybody is sold on you. We don't even know who you are. You know what I was doing in 2016? I was knocking on doors for President Trump. You voted for Evan McMullin. In 2017, I was at Charlottesville. You were on CNN calling Trump a Nazi and praising Obama. And tomorrow night on my show on Friday, I'm doing a special. We are going to talk about all of Jeffrey Epstein's connection to this administration. And that's going to be a problem for you, buddy. Tomorrow night, we're doing a big special. We are going to map out all of Jeffrey Epstein's connections, in particular to this Trump administration. Howard Lutnick and Leon Black and Les Wexner and Peter Thiel and Reid Hoffman, all of it, we're going in. You want to play this game? All right, let's play. Here's the difference. You want to be the president of the United States. I'm a live streamer. You want to go to war with me? You want to go to war with the Groypers? Here's the difference. You need young white men to turn out and vote for you. You are asking for something from us. You are trying to be the president. I'm a live streamer. I can do this all day. I can do this all day, pal. You want to go to war with me? I don't think you're going to like how that winds up for you. So that's my response to the vice president of the United States. I can eat shit. You eat shit. You tell Usha Vance, prepare another course of shit for you and your family while you go to India and advocate for H-1B visas. We're not eating that shit. Nobody's on board with that, pal. So anyway, so that's JD Vance. Crazy how we have beef with this guy. Isn't that wild? We have beef with the vice president of the, he's beefing with me. JD Vance is beefing with me. And you could tell he was tilted about it. I don't know if you saw the clip, but they start asking him about me and he starts nervously laughing. I thought I told that guy to eat crap. And what do you mean by his supporters? I don't know what supporters means. Don't get too tilted. Don't get rattled. Don't get nervous. And you know what? People are always asking me, who are we going to vote for in 2028? If not Vance, then who? You never know what's around the corner. I've got a few ideas. I'll tell you this. I don't think we're going to have to settle for JD Vance. I'll say that much. And I think the further that Trump slides into the shit, look, Trump is becoming a toxic asset. He's becoming a liability. And the further he falls, the more that race is going to open wide up. You're overconfident. So that's my warning. That's my admonition for Vance. The other thing I wanted to say, one other thing before we, and by the way, you know, in the end, that is what it is going to come down to. I want everybody to realize the big political struggle of the next 2 years is against JD Vance. That's it. So people are talking about my position on Venezuela and on Charlie Kirk and on Epstein and all this stuff. Let me tell you something. The only thing that's going to matter in the next couple of years is whether you are for this artifice that is being foisted upon us or whether you're against it. That's all you really need to know. The Jewish thing has in some ways become convoluted, but if you are in favor of this Silicon Valley creation, this Israel first artifice, CIA asset, if you are in favor of him being installed, that's all I need to know. Look at who's behind him. Peter Thiel and David Sachs and Tucker Carlson. This guy is a creation of the deep state. This guy is a representative of Silicon Valley and the tech industry. He's a representative of the intelligence agencies. He's not even a real human being. JD Vance isn't even a real name. That's not even a real person. He didn't become JD Vance until he was 28 years old. I'm 27. So could you imagine if next year I changed my name and started going by Vance? I would be totally insane. This is not even a real person. If you are trying to foist this on the American public as the successor to Donald Trump and the MAGA movement, you are not our friend. So that's going to be the real fight. And I'm very curious to see how that all shakes out and who's going to be on what side. You can't be railing against the war in Gaza and all these things that have been happening, this Trump administration, which is a complete flop by design, and then go and shill for Vance in 28. Keep a very close eye because it's already so fake. I look on Twitter. Anytime you call out JD Vance, the bots come in. Anytime you criticize JD Vance, they have already paid for the media. All these people come in hot out of the group chat in the replies, the quote tweets. I saw some guy say, it's so third world to criticize JD Vance. Third world? Dude, he's married to the third world. I said, I'm never Vance. You have one of these LARPing MAGA accounts that says, oh, that's really third world to be against Vance. Third world? You want to see the third world? Go to JD Vance's house on Thanksgiving. That's the third world, okay? Third world? It's third world to criticize the vice president. Bro, India is the third world. That's where his wife is from. That's what his kids are about. JD Vance loves the third world so much, he married it. That's how much he loves the third world. Hey, JD, you love the third world so much, why don't you marry it? He did. He had an interreligious wedding, intercultural wedding ceremony with his Indian wife. Then they took their kids dressed like Slumdog Millionaire to India last year. And people have the audacity to say, I'm third world? Are you kidding me? That's totally insane. So anyway, that's that. I do want to move on, though. I want to get into something else. So I told you the other night, I don't really want to weigh in on the Elijah Schaffer, Sarah Stock drama because they're both friends of mine. And obviously, I don't approve of the things that are being said about them. It's not good stuff, but they're my friends. And I'm there for my friends when they're going through a hard time and when they're going through a good time. You know, that's what I have to say about that. Here's what I will say, though, a little bit further. You know what's funny? The timing of it. Last week on the show, I made this very bold statement on the show. I said, sometimes, and I said, I'm not going to do it, okay? I said, I'm not seriously considering this. I'm never going to do it. I said, but sometimes, I think it might be kind of hot to marry an OnlyFans girl. And look, I just said it out loud, all right? I put it out there. I just said it out loud. I just put it in there, okay? I just put it out there into the world. And they said I was crazy. They said I was crazy for saying this. People said, why is he doing this? Why is he saying this? They made me feel like I was crazy, but I was right. Oh, I guess I don't sound so crazy anymore, huh? People were telling me. Sargon of Akkad texted me. He said, mate, what are you doing? I want a girl who's mine and mine alone. I want a trad girl. I said, yeah, well, I don't. I said, yeah? Well, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I think it'd be hot maybe to not. He said, you have lost the plot. You should want a trad girl. You should want a nice trad girl that you meet in church. Huh, I guess now I'm not sounding so crazy anymore, huh? See, it's not that I'm not right. It's just that I'm not right now. I'm not always right now, okay? I said this 2 weeks ago. They said I was crazy. People said, what's gotten into him? Nobody understood it. Now are you getting it? You getting it now? Now it makes perfect sense. Couple weeks later, now it makes perfect sense. I gotta say, I mean, and look, not trying to make light of the situation. It's actually a devastating situation for both of them. Look, I just have to say, no e-girls, not even once. Have to say it, you know, and okay, I like these people. I'm there for them. I'm sticking up for them, but you know, what's the law? The law. No e-girls, not even once. I mean, I'm just saying, okay? And I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying, how can one man be so vindicated? How can one man be so goated? Bro had a take so vindicated and so legendary, he had the whole squad going incel. I mean, seriously. Right About Everything award, Fell for it again award, Fell for it again awards going out to everybody in the audience. Anyway, but like I said, I'm deeply sympathetic. And I think that the right approach is for us to be charitable to these people. I like them both. And this is a personal drama. It's really nobody's business other than theirs. People are saying they need to apologize. I want to say, apologize to who? Me? What do I have to do? People are saying you need to apologize. It's like, to the internet? Why? I think they should apologize to God. They should confess to God. We're Catholic. That's what you do. And they should work it out with their families. It's a family affair. It's a private affair. I see everybody in the replies. They need to apologize. You need to show some humility. To who? We're not the judge, jury, and executioner. So I think people should be a little respectful to these people as they try to navigate this. They try to figure it out and pick up the pieces. They made mistakes. They'll pay for those mistakes, surely. And that's really their prerogative. I mean, that's their situation. And I think we should be charitable and respectful. And we should approach these subjects with the intention that we want what's best for the people involved. And I don't think that being accusatory, and I don't think that drip feeding this vindictive campaign against them, posting secret recordings, that's not helping them. That's not good for anybody, actually. I think that's bullshit. And I don't know how anybody could say that that is righteous. Two wrongs don't make a right. People can make mistakes. And then you got people secretly recording. Oh, I secretly recorded her. I secretly recorded him. Now I'm sharing it with the world. Now everybody's gossiping. We're reveling in the drama. That's not good either. So guard your souls. Guard your souls. Follow your conscience. Try to be merciful and charitable when it comes to that sort of thing. Anyway, that's just my feelings on it. But I had to just throw it out there because I went on Telegram today and I'm kind of like, isn't it a little bit interesting that I had some commentary about this issue like last week? And do you remember everybody was outraged? They said he was one-shotted by Miami. He's just saying things to sound straight. They said, this is really cucked. He just wants guys to sleep with his wife. I'm like, maybe you don't really get it. Like, this is just kind of the new meta. I don't know what to tell you. I'm just living in the future. At a certain point, you're going to have to just give me the benefit of the doubt and trust me a little bit. Anyway, we're joking a little bit, but that's that. I do want to move on. We're going to get into our news here tonight. And man, oh man, this is just crazy stuff. Our featured story, we're talking all about the total capitulation by the Trump administration on immigration. And I don't even really know how to start this one because I feel like I've been saying the same exact thing for 2 years, and I literally have. If you've been watching the show for 2 years, you know exactly what I'm going to say. I've been saying it every day for 2 years, which is that you're not getting mass deportations. You are never going to get mass deportations. You never will get mass deportations. And I told you exactly why, and I told you exactly how that was going to play out. And now we're just watching it unfold in real time. So as you know, at the end of 2025, the Trump administration sent ICE and the National Guard into Minneapolis. And they have been doing this. They have been deploying a lot of immigration resources to cities. You had Midway Blitz in Chicago. You had Operation in LA before that. And so this was supposed to be another deployment of ICE and the National Guard, which has been escalating. There's been an increasing amount of tension, and it's become very contentious and very violent. We saw that with the LA riots in June of last year. We saw that with some of the resistance in Chicago in the fall and early in the winter of last year. And so ICE and National Guard go up to Minneapolis, and they're encountering this stiff resistance from local organizers, big protests. And it looks like a coordinated cell of progressive activists that are doxing and stalking and intimidating ICE agents who are trying to arrest people. And as you know, this culminated in the death of Rene and then Alex Preddy. And there were all these calls then from activists and protesters and the municipal and state government and national figures, cultural figures to back off, to get ICE to have some accountability, for there to be new restrictions and stuff like that to be implemented. And I remember this conversation in January. There were so many people on the internet telling us that Trump was not backing down. It was very obvious how that was all playing out. We all sort of knew basically the moment that Rene Good got shot, where all of this was headed, which is to say that she's going to get shot. The media is literally going to cry bloody murder. They're going to do wall-to-wall coverage. You're going to get the propaganda that ICE are like the Nazis, that ICE is gunning down citizens in the streets. And what is that going to do? It is going to embolden and encourage the agitators. So you were going to get protesters and an autonomous zone and all that other stuff. And knowing the Trump administration, he was going to back down for the very simple reason that we are in a midterm election year. So Trump can't afford for the bottom to fall out with his popularity because they only have a few seats in the House that give them the majority. Historically, they're going to lose seats. They really need all the help they can get. So you knew that Trump was not going to stick it out. Like, so much of this was predictable. The second that Rene Good got shot. And I remember in January, all of the Trump supporters on Twitter were reassuring us, no, that's not happening. It's actually intensifying. Actually, Trump is a genius, and he worked out a deal. He called the mayor and the governor, and by even having that call, he made them out to be traitors to their own movement, and he got them to cooperate with the feds, and it's a 5-dimensional chess play. It's all great. It's all going according to plan. I remember they were seriously saying this in January. Well, now, as of last night, it is just undeniable and unambiguous that that is not the case. That Trump is absolutely surrendering and capitulating on mass deportations. How do we know this? Because he said it. He said it in an interview with NBC last night. He said that ICE needs a softer touch. When asked directly, are we going to continue deporting all illegals or will we now focus only on criminals? He said, we're only focusing on criminals. That's it. This is a story. This is from BBC. We're going to read through it. It says, quote, President Trump has said immigration agents could use a softer touch as his administration began pulling about a quarter of its force out of Minnesota. He said to NBC News, quote, I learned that maybe we could use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. U.S. Border Czar Tom Homan said earlier 700 federal immigration agents would be withdrawn from the Minneapolis area. He said 2,000 agents would remain and that he aimed to cut their presence in the city to its level before Operation Metro Surge began in December. So in other words, they're withdrawing about a third of the force and they're going to draw down the rest of it later. So it's graduated, but they're getting rid of everybody eventually. In the interview, Trump insisted that the operations were highly targeted at criminals. He said, quote, we are totally focused on criminals, really bad criminals. He also said he was not happy with the fatal shootings of Alex Preddy and Rene Good. He said he was not an angel. She was not an angel. You look at some tapes, but still I'm not happy with what happened there. He said it should not have happened. It was very sad to me. 2 very sad incidents. During a news conference on Wednesday, Border Czar Homan said that U.S. government had made providing body-worn cameras to all officers in Minneapolis a priority and was planning to deploy the equipment to agents across the country. Homan acknowledged it was not a perfect operation and said it had become more streamlined with an established unified chain of command. Meanwhile, the White House stood by Trump advisor Stephen Miller amid a report that cracks had formed in Trump's relationship with the immigration hawk. The U.S. president told aides he was not comfortable with how far Miller had gone on the issue on some fronts, said the Wall Street Journal. So let's back it up a little bit, okay? Let's back up the timeline. I really want to give you the full timeline here. I want to go all the way back. I want to go all the way back actually to January 2025. Do you remember in January 2025, a week before the inauguration, Tom Homan our tough as nails borders are that looks like a medieval brute. Remember those memes? Tom Homan got up and smugly and proudly said, day one, we are doing immigration raids. We are starting mass deportations. If you're an illegal, go home because we're going to deport you. Remember that? Remember that? For 2 weeks leading up to the inauguration, this is how it started. They said, pack your bags. You have 14 days. Everybody's going home. If you're illegal, you're going home. I'm coming to Chicago. I don't care what the mayor says. The mass deportations start on day one. Anybody remember what happened on day one? No immigration raids. Nothing. They didn't do anything. They canceled them. They canceled them. On January 20th, there were no raids. And Tom Homan got on TV and said, oh, well, our operational security was compromised because the illegals caught wind. We were going to do it. So to keep everybody safe, we had to postpone it. He got compromised. Maybe it's because you were telling everybody it was going to happen for 2 weeks. It didn't happen on day one. This is how it starts. You think I started this life yesterday, kid? That's how it starts. They make a promise. They say it's going to happen on this day. They don't do it. That's only the beginning. That's always how it starts. Day two, you had the DHS press account on Twitter, the White House press account on Twitter. They started posting their daily number of arrests. Anybody remember that second day total of illegal immigration arrests? It's about 306. 306 illegal immigrants. It's nothing. Day two, same thing. They kept chugging along for a couple weeks. They got it up to 1,500. Then it kept coming down again. Then it fell below 1,000. Then they stopped posting the numbers. We never heard about it again. And ICE and DHS stopped posting the figures. Remember that? That's how it started. And as the months went on, it was clear that they were not even arresting 1,000 people per day. And do the quick math. If you're arresting 1,000 per day, that's 365,000 per year, obviously. 365 days in a year, 1,000 arrests a day, 365,000 arrests per year. Well, if 10 million illegals came in under Biden, that means that 2.5 million were coming in every single year. So if for 4 years you had 2.5 million entering, and in the next 4 years you only have 365,000 leaving, what does that give you? It means you're operating at a deficit of 2.2 million per year, which is still an astronomical figure. So even if you get them up to 1 million per year, 2 million per year, you're still not even getting rid of the illegals that came in under Biden. Huge problem. So the days and months go on. January, February, March, April, May. And these arrest numbers are not going up at all. They're not even getting up past 1,000, 1,500. It's just not there. And so people are recognizing these mass deportations are not happening. So what was the excuse? Well, they said, and in fairness, there's some truth to this. They said that, well, we really don't have the resources to do a mass deportation. We don't have enough ICE agents. We don't have enough detention space. Even if we wanted to arrest 1 million people per year, we don't have enough ICE agents to do it. We don't have enough detention facilities to hold the people while we ship them out. So they said, we need to pass this big, beautiful bill. We need to pass this huge corporate tax cut. We need to pass this AI regulation moratorium. We need to cut Medicaid by $800 billion. We have to do all this pork barrel spending, all this other crap, in order to get a $80 billion ICE budget. Then we could start deporting people. Do you remember what happened the day that they passed that bill, which was supposed to fix these problems and get us on track for deportations? The very same day that that bill passed the House using budget reconciliation, Trump went to a rally and he said, and I quote, "We need the people." He said, and he indicated, "We will not be deporting illegal immigrants from job sites, farms, hospitality, restaurants, construction." He said, and the radical right won't be happy about it, but they'll be okay with it. The signs were there. This is always how it goes. Deportations on day one. I meant day two. Day two, 300 arrests. Well, hey, we're getting them up. They never go up. Well, we just need the money. Here's the money. Oh, well, we're not going to deport all the workers, actually. Okay? So then you move on, and you see what is happening in these cities. Trump is deploying ICE to Los Angeles and National Guard. Trump is deploying ICE to Chicago with National Guard. And what is happening in the summer and fall in these cities? It's a war. Because even though ICE is not arresting a lot of people, how are they doing it? They're doing it in a highly visible and provocative way. What do I mean by this? You have like 100 ICE agents performing a raid on one apartment building, and they make a dozen arrests. So you got hundreds of agents. They bring in helicopters. They come in with tactical vests like a SWAT team. And they get 12 people. Then they post a hype edit about it on TikTok. And they're posting hype edits on TikTok all summer with Theo Vaughn, with Sabrina Carpenter. And they're really like challenging people to have a problem with this. They're daring people to be offended. They're showing you these images of illegals being thrown out, and they're sort of daring you to be sympathetic. And that, in fairness, they are making mistakes. They're undisciplined. They're going up to people and asking them, "Hey, are you a citizen?" They're getting a little handsy, pushing and shoving people. It's not a great look. And so they're going into LA and they're going into Chicago, and you start to have this asymmetry of results and perception. In the minds of the public and the media, this is an extremely aggressive deportation policy. In their minds, this is like an Orwellian, dystopian, totalitarian takeover. Families are being kidnapped. It's like the Hunger Games. This is like the Capitol. It's like Gestapo all over again. In reality, very few people are even being arrested. Now, why is the Trump administration deliberately creating this perception? It's because they really have no intention of doing mass deportations. They both lack the competence to actually see it through, and also they lack the will. They don't really want to do it. Because to actually deport millions of people, you're going to hurt the bottom line of Wall Street, Silicon Valley, big agriculture, and other industries. So they don't want to do it. Even if they wanted to do it, they are not competent enough to achieve it. So in order to satisfy the base and keep the base happy, they are creating this perception, substituting cruelty and attitude and style for substance and results in order to feed the base and get the base thinking that they're doing something. In the process, they are antagonizing and provoking the left. And what this does is, in a word, it activates the left. The left accepts the challenge and they rally behind the issue. And the left, which was disorganized and demoralized and despairing, they are now resurgent. And now they have consolidated and they found their issue. And now in LA, they're rioting. And the riots aren't a good look, but they forced Trump to back down. And in Chicago, they're fighting ICE agents and they're rioting outside the detention facility. And there are terrorist attacks happening against ICE in Portland and Texas. And slowly but surely, there is this escalation in violence. The left is getting emboldened. They see the provocation and they're getting angry. Mission accomplished. You're antagonizing them. They're getting pissed off. They're organizing. They're networking, they're meeting in Signal group chats, these progressive cells, Antifa, communists, DSA, they're being funded by the far left. Their signs, their posters, the meetups they're organizing on Facebook, they're getting together. And not only that, but they're getting more and more violent because they see that ICE is kind of a joke. They see what they're able to get away with. They see how if they just show up, they're able to overwhelm ICE. They're chasing them through the streets, blowing their whistles, surrounding ICE agents, ICE leadership. And I told you last year, I said, you have to do one of two things. Either you don't even attempt this and you just let the sleeping dogs lie, or if you want to fight the left, you need to crush them and overwhelm them. You have to make it known that if they try to resist, they will be destroyed. Otherwise, you are feeding this tit-for-tat cycle of escalation. You go to a city and make some arrests, so they box in an ICE agent. You send in the National Guard to beat those people up. They send in an army of protesters to push back the National Guard. You're just giving it oxygen to breathe. You're giving them the optimism and the hope that they can actually defeat ICE and overcome ICE, that ICE is not actually going to win the game of chicken. So then that brings us to Minneapolis. And I told you last year, inevitably, you're going to get this brutal confrontation, and here it is. In Minneapolis, it starts to get really contentious and really ugly. And people are turning against ICE. They're turning against the policy. People are seeing the chaos in the streets, and they want it to stop. Now, even before the new year, even before 2026, the polling started to turn against ICE and the immigration enforcement policy. And there was already some second guessing inside the administration into the first week of January. I told you there was a report out in Axios in the first week of January that said that Trump and his team were having second thoughts. They wanted to change the strategy. They wanted to recalibrate. They think it's becoming unpopular. Republicans are pushing back because they're worried about the midterms. Again, this is how this year started. Then Rene Good got shot. Rene Good gets shot. Alex Preddy gets shot. What happens in the aftermath of these shootings? It is just a cascading series of concessions. Death by 1,000 cuts. Trump gets up in a press conference and says, we're only deporting criminal illegals, not these poor people that have been here for 20 years working hard. Tom Homan goes into the city and he says, we've been making all these mistakes. We have all these problems. Bovino gets pulled out of the city. It's the first scalp for the left. They hated this guy. He was the face of enforcement, and the Trump administration pulled the rug out from under him. They ordered him to leave the city, and they sent in Tom Homan to do cleanup crew. Then Tom Homan gets up at a press conference and is undercutting his own squad. He's telling everybody that ICE made a lot of mistakes and they don't always get it right. And we're going to discipline everybody that didn't get it right and all this kind of stuff. He starts talking about a drawdown. He says we're going to draw down the number of ICE agents in the city. And if they would just cooperate, then we'll leave. Then Kristi Noem last week said, we're going to get everybody to wear body cameras, first in Minnesota, then everywhere else. Stephen Miller starts playing the blame game. He said, I only called Alex Preddy a terrorist because that's what DHS said. And I told Kristi Noem that we need to change the rules of engagement, and she didn't listen. This is how it goes. And now, at long last, we have this series of developments today. Trump says in an interview a few things which are really interesting. He says that those protesters shouldn't have died. He says we need a softer touch. He says we're only going after the criminals, not the regular illegals anymore. And Tom Homan says we're withdrawing 700 people and we're going to withdraw even more. And he says basically our operation was flawed. This is a complete and total capitulation. And it's not hard to see why this is a problem. If you want to deport 1 million people per year, which is what you would need to do to get anything resembling a mass deportation, you need actually to increase the presence of law enforcement, not decrease. You want to deport 1 million people per year? You need to double, triple, quadruple the number of people that you're arresting and deporting. So that means you're going to need more ICE agents. It's going to need to be more visible, more provocative. Talk about, they're saying we need targeted enforcement. No, you're going to need to sweep neighborhoods. You're going to need patrols. You're going to need to do more Minneapolis-style operations if you want to get a mass deportation. So if they come out and they say, well, we're withdrawing, well, that indicates first and foremost, they will be deporting fewer people, not more. But it's also a surrender. You tried to do this policy in Minneapolis. The left fought back. They tried to kill your people, and they died in the process. And now you undercut your own law enforcement operatives by throwing them under the bus. Trump says that Bovino is an out there guy. He's too tough, saying we need to be softer. Softer? You're staring down an angry mob, and you're on TV saying we need to be softer? This is not the Trump that I know. This is not the Trump from the election who's all fire breathing and intensity. Trump says in the face of this mob trying to get him to back down, he says we need to be soft. And Bovino is out there and he needs to relax. They throw their own guys under the bus saying we're not perfect and this is a mistake that these people were killed. You send your commander out of the city. You reduce the troop size by 1/3. And in the end, they changed the policy. We had a statement from Border Patrol, according to Nick Sorter. 2 Border Patrol agents confirmed they're no longer doing patrols. They're now only doing precise, targeted enforcement. Meaning they're not going to be driving around the city looking for illegals. They're going to be looking and working with the police for the criminals and only arresting those people. Which necessarily is going to mean far fewer arrests because there are far fewer criminal illegals than illegals. You could deport all the criminals and you're still going to have millions and millions and millions of illegals. So that's a much smaller group and it's a much more narrow net to cast. It can't possibly go up. It can't even possibly stay the same. It's necessarily going to go down. And the number of arrests and the presence of law enforcement and the strength of the tactics, it's all decreasing after the left forced their hand. The left vetoed the policy. Trump tried, Bovino tried, Holman tried, Stephen Miller tried, and the left came in and they shut it down. They vetoed it. They created so much pain and so much unpleasantness. They created such a controversy that they made it impossible for the administration to continue. All the media coverage that was generated, all the outrage, and now Trump was forced to back down. But let's be clear also about some of the pressures that are going against Trump. It's not just coming from the left. Think about the logic here. Why does Trump have to shut it down? Why is he particularly sensitive? Because it's a midterm election year. Republicans have a 3 or 4 seat majority. Democrats are favored to win the House, 83% on Polymarket. And historically, the incumbent party always loses seats in the House during the midterms. So if you have a small majority and you're almost certainly going to lose seats, that means you're almost certainly going to lose the House. And this is going to be catastrophic. It means impeachment. It means a divided government. It means you're never going to pass any legislation. It's going to create a ton of problems. So Trump is acutely aware of this. And even more so, the Republican conference, the Republican members of the House and the Senate are aware of this. And so certainly, as the media does wall-to-wall coverage of these atrocities, Republican congressmen are freaking out and they're calling the White House and saying, hey, man, we want to win the midterms. You got to stop this policy. And so are the businesses. The Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, which represents Target and some of the other major businesses in the city that are being affected by this, the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, representing the business interest, they put out a statement and said, we need to de-escalate. We need to shut it down. And of course, Trump needs to obey the donors because he works for Wall Street. He works for the business interests. He works for the Chamber of Commerce. And this is exactly how I said it would go a couple of years ago in 2024. I mean, really. I posted a clip today from November of 2024, and I said precisely this. I said they're going to try to do mass deportations. They will try until 2026 at the latest. I said, and then what is going to happen is the left is going to push back. There's going to be bad media coverage. I said Trump is going to cave. And not only is he going to cave, but he's going to try to retcon it. He's going to try to finesse it. And he's going to rebrand. And he'll say mass deportations. I never promised mass deportations. What I always meant was self-deportations. What I always promised was deportations of criminal illegal aliens. Because that is what Trump does. He overpromises, he underdelivers, and then he gaslights and convinces you that he is doing what he always promised to do. And there's a few clips like that. There's a clip of me in a Twitter space from years ago where I said, it's scary. In 2024, I said Trump is going to try to do deportations. I said you're going to get wall-to-wall coverage calling it the Gestapo. I said you'll get color revolution tactics from the left. I said then Trump is going to call up Stephen Miller and says, Stephen, we can't keep doing this, and they're going to shut it down. That is literally exactly how it played out. They tried it. The media hyped it up. You get the color revolution stuff. And then literally, this is from Wall Street Journal, you have Trump admonishing Stephen Miller, telling him we have to walk the policy back. Telling the White House we need to focus on criminals only, not the other illegals. That's how we're going to win public opinion back. And it was so obvious that that is how it would go. Now, a lot of people are saying that. A lot of people are saying, well, anyone could have predicted that. Well, maybe anyone could have predicted that, but nobody did. Nobody did, because I was there in 2024. And you know what they said in 2024? They said, we don't need to scrutinize what Trump does or says because they held up these placards at the RNC that said mass deportations. And that's good enough for me. Yeah, I suppose anyone could have made that prediction. It's just that nobody did. And if they did, nobody said it out loud. Why? Because nobody was on board with that back then. Everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid. Candace Owens was pro-Trump. Tucker Carlson was pro-Trump. All these people were pro-Trump. Nobody would deign to criticize him or threaten not to vote for him over something like this, but I did. And I said precisely how it would happen. Now, why do I say this? Because even to this day, you have paid Republican operatives trying to convince you that this isn't happening. I saw somebody post today that when Trump tells NBC that we're not doing mass deportations, I saw somebody say on Twitter, well, he's just lying. So Border Patrol says we're not doing mass deportations. The numbers say we're not doing mass deportations. Border Patrol and ICE and DHS say we're not doing mass deportations. The president says we're not doing it anymore. What do the Republican shills say? They say, he doesn't mean that. He's just lying. He doesn't mean that. It reminds me of that scene in Taxi Driver when Robert De Niro says to the hooker, he says, you know what the pimp says about you? He says disgusting things about you. And she goes, he would never say that. He wouldn't say that about me. It's like you're literally a cuck. You're literally a cheap whore. You are like a stupid whore and a cheap whore at that. You're barely literally see Republican shills saying, oh, Trump said we're only deporting the criminals. He doesn't mean that. He doesn't mean that. He's going to deport them. He just has to say that. I saw some doofus say, well, he's interviewing with NBC. That's liberal media. Of course he's going to say that to the liberal media. Aren't you guys tired? I mean, seriously, haven't you guys had enough of being disappointed, of being humiliated, of being let down, of having to carry water for the... Aren't you tired of all that? Seriously. Because I remember in 2024, when Trump and Vance separately were asked about mass deportations, they were saying the same stuff then that they are now. They were asked, how will you specifically deport tens of millions of people? And they said, we're going to focus on the criminals first, and then we'll worry about everybody else later. Go back, play the tape, find it. I'll wait. They were saying that during the election, and I tried to tell you. I mean, I played the clip on my show. I said, watch. I said, when they say they're going to prioritize criminals, that means they're not deporting anybody else. I said, and that means they're not serious. They're not going to deport even 500,000 people per year. And it took everybody else 2 years to figure it out when they're actually saying it. And let me tell you why this is happening. This is happening because at the end of the day, okay, let me be clear. Let me do the politician thing. Let me be clear. Are you paying attention? Are you listening? Hello? This is the most important thing you're going to hear. The Republican Party is not against immigration, and they never have been. You need to get that through your head. The Republican Party and their donors, and therefore their think tanks and politicians and magazines, they are not against immigration, and they never have been. Would you like to know why? Because the business interests that fund the Republican movement profit from foreign labor. It's that simple. Who is hiring all these illegal aliens? Big farms, meat processing plants, meat packing plants, hotels, restaurants, the rest of it. Now, who owns those companies? It's the big asset managers. It's the banks. It's BlackRock. It's Vanguard. It's JP Morgan. Okay? It's asset managers. It's banks. Do you know that Trump received $200 million from Timothy Mellon in 2024? A banker? Why do you think he got all that money? You know that he received $275 million from Elon Musk? Why do you think he got that money? Who is employing all the cheap labor? It's the business interests. Businesses employ employees. Businesses profit from cheaper labor, from lower wages. That is why the business interests want the cheapest labor possible. That's why they want the most laborers inside our borders. So that's why Reagan gave 3 million illegal aliens amnesty and didn't secure the border. That's why Reagan's successor, George Bush, doubled the amount of immigration, expanded virtually every category of immigration with the 1990 Immigration Act. Reagan gave them amnesty in '86 and turned California blue forever. George Bush gave us the 1990 Immigration Act. Just Google it. They virtually doubled every kind of immigration, chain migration. They created H-1Bs. The visa lottery, expanded the number of refugees. It all went up because the Chamber of Commerce wanted it. George W. Bush was soft on this stuff. Jeb Bush said illegals come here out of love. Gang of Eight, Lindsey Graham, Rubio, these guys, they wanted to give amnesty for illegals, and they always have. Now, here's the rub. Under Trump, the Republican Party is smart enough to pander to its nativist base. Most people that vote Republican are white by far. There is a higher proportion of white people voting Republican than there is of white people voting Democrat. About 57% of Democrat voters are white. About 80% of Republican voters are white. And Trump knows the Republican base, so he panders to them. This has been a winning issue for 25 years. English only, and building a border wall, and mass deportations, and cracking down on foreign labor. All of this has been popular for a quarter of a century. And so Trump, as a good politician, leaned into this issue. It's a gold mine. But then once Trump won, he became another Republican. And he was governed by the same political constraints, the same capture by the business interests as every other Republican. And the mistake that the voters are making is they're listening too much to what the president says, and they're not paying close enough attention to who the president owes. That's the difference. So in 2024, people said, hey, but Trump's rhetoric is great. Hey, but hasn't the conversation changed so much? Haven't we come so far in terms of how we're able to talk about the issue? Yeah, okay, well, that and $1 will buy you a cup of coffee, okay? I was on Tim Pool debating it with one of these Trump guys, and he goes, but the conversation has changed. Don't you realize we're able to talk candidly about the issue? I go, yeah, well, your ability to speak about this and this meta-political victory of moving the Overton window, that's all bullshit. That's not real. You could take all your meta-political victories and you could put them in a bag, and that and $1 will buy you a cup of coffee at McDonald's. It's worth nothing. You know what I want? I want my border wall. I want my 30-foot, 2,000-mile long concrete border wall. What did he say in 2016? Does anybody even remember? Seriously. Think about how much you've been gaslit. Do you even remember that when Trump ran in 2015, 11 years ago, he said, we're going to build a big, tall, powerful, impenetrable border wall and Mexico will pay for it? Does anyone even remember that? Do you even remember? Remember, we're going to build a wall. Mexico will pay for that wall. The wall just got 10 feet higher. How are you going to get them to pay for it? I'm great at deals. People don't even, so many promises broken and forgotten, we don't even remember all of them. Trump was synonymous with border wall. Now people don't even know. They don't even remember. It's not there. It doesn't exist. We got 83 miles of 18-foot steel bollard fencing. He promised us 2,000 miles of 30-foot tall concrete wall. Okay, we played this game. Trump said in 2016, I'm going to build the wall and Mexico will pay for the wall. And it never happened because Republicans disobeyed him. They didn't give him the funding. They didn't follow through on it. And in the end, it's because they really didn't want to control illegal immigration. So they put together this nicky-knack Remain in Mexico executive order architecture. And Biden undid it on day one with an executive order. And then we got 10 million illegals. Trump, once again, is swept into office by this groundswell of opposition to illegal immigration. He promises mass deportations. We're going to kick them all out. Pack your bags. You got 30 days. And they didn't even deport as many people as Obama in his first year in office. And they're already walking it back because they don't really want to deport all these illegals. You were tricked. People say, this isn't what I voted for. Yeah, it is. This is exactly what you voted for, you idiot. It was obvious. Trump and Vance were both saying this throughout 2024. Throughout 2024, the election, Trump said, we need the people. We need to let them come in. We need the people. We need them to work certain jobs. He promised David Sachs, I will staple green cards to diplomas. Whenever they were asked about the deportations, they would say, we're prioritizing criminals. We'll worry about everybody else later. It was clear as day. It was in black and white. It was obvious. You just did not want to listen because you wanted to believe. You were so caught up, so emotional, so involved in the groupthink, you didn't want to listen. You didn't want to see it. It was right in front of you, smacking you in the face. You didn't want to see it. And it was right in front of you all throughout last year. Well, now look at where we are. Looky where we are now. It's 2026, and it's already too late. It's the midterms. They are going to redistrict Virginia, and Republicans are going to lose 4 seats from that alone. And we're going to get slaughtered. So you think now there's going to be a big push for mass deportations? Good luck. You can't deport 750 people per day without getting riots and protests and body cameras, and they're defunding the police over it. You're going to quadruple those numbers in a midterm, and what, the media is not going to catch it on camera, and you're not going to get any more dead communists to cry over? Forget it. And what do you think is going to happen when the Republicans lose the midterms? Not if, but when the Republicans lose the midterms. What do you think is going to happen? Well, you're going to get a lame duck from November to January. And then in January 2027, when the new Congress is seated, they will not fund DHS. They will not fund the government until we defund ICE. They're doing it already. They're showing us. We had the longest government shutdown in history last fall over a symbolic provision about healthcare credits, which they didn't even get. They just wanted to be uncooperative. Now we're getting another partial government shutdown of DHS because Democrats want to force restrictions on ICE. That is when they are in the minority in both chambers. What happens when they have a majority in the House? They're going to shut down the government all the time. They're going to impeach everybody, investigate everybody. The work of this administration will grind to a halt because they will be distracted. They will be out of energy. Their personnel will be involved in this. They will not be able to get anything through Congress. And if anything, Congress will impose restraints on everything that they do legislatively. So you think you're getting it in 2026? Not going to happen. You think you're going to get it in 2027 when the Democrats have half of the divided government? Not going to happen. 2028? Who even cares at that point? And I told you it would be like this. Now all the Republicans are already saying, well, hey, everybody, let's get everything back on track in 26. Get it back on track. This is supposed to be the golden age. Huh? 2016, we're going to make America great again. 2018, hey, we need more seats in the House. 2020, we got to keep America great and, finish the wall and stuff. 2022, we got to hold the line, stop the Democrats in their tracks. 2024, all right, this time a golden age, this time for real. 2026, nevertheless, we got to get them back on track. Another vote. Imagine still playing this game. Dude, fuck these people. Fuck this administration. People say, you want to burn it all down? Yeah, I do. People say, you want to burn it all down just so you could rule over the ashes. See, you don't seem to have much of an imagination. I want to burn you to the ground. You will be turned into ashes. We will still be very much intact. People say, he just wants to burn it all down so he could rule over the ashes and whatever's left. No, you got it wrong. We want to burn you to the ground. We want to burn the Republican Party to the ground. That's not us. We want to burn you and this administration and all these criminals that are stealing from the government, all the liars that made false promises, all these people that buried the files, brought us to war in Iran, failed on deportations. We want to burn you to the ground. We want to destroy your careers. We want to primary you, we want to fire you, and then we want to build a different party. Anything would be better than this. You have had your chance in 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. Now they want another vote in 26. They think they got us on lock in 2028. Let's try something different. Let's fire you. Let's burn you to the ground. And maybe this time you're going to be the sucker. Because every time we go and vote, you get privileges. You get patronage, contracts. You get to skim. You get to graft off of the movement. And we get We get 600,000 Chinese students. We get 130,000 H-1B Indians. We get another $20 billion to Israel. We get 230,000 deportations. Maybe it's your turn to get fucked. You've been burning us to the ground for 35 years. You burned us to the ground in 86 with the amnesty, in 1990 with the Immigration Act, in 2003 with the war in Iraq, in 2008 with the bailout, in 2018 when you couldn't cough up $1.3 billion for a border wall. You've been burning the country to the ground. Maybe it's time for you to burn to the ground. And I would gladly rule over whatever is left after that. Gladly. Better than this. So they're always saying that, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to burn it all down? Yeah, I think I'm ready to do that. I'm ready to burn down everybody that isn't Thomas Massey. End of list. I'm ready to burn down every Republican that has been complicit in this. Stephen Miller is retweeting Lindsey Graham. Wake up. Hello. Stephen Miller is retweeting Lindsey Graham. And by the way, if Stephen Miller and JD Vance were so great, then why can't they get the job done, huh? All the hype, all this propaganda on Twitter, all of this paid influencing campaigns to promote Stephen Miller and JD Vance. Hey, if they're so great, why can't they get the job done? Trump is 100 years old. What is their excuse? Trump is 90. He's falling asleep in meetings. He's obviously out to lunch. What is their excuse? Isn't Miller supposed to be our base Jew? Isn't Vance supposed to be our based Halo, Code Red Mountain Dew drinking savior? Where are they? They say, trust the plan, trust in Miller, trust in Vance. They'll get it done. Really? Well, where are they? We're going to vote for them in 2028. What are they going to do then that they can't do now? You are there now. You're in the White House now. You can make the change right now. If you can't, you got no business being there. If you won't, then you should have never been there in the first place. Either way, people say, we're going to need Vance to, keep up the good work. Dude, it's a joke. It's a disaster. And here's going to be the delicious irony, and I can't wait for this. Peter Thiel and Little Tech and CIA Tucker Carlson with the CIA daddy, Dick Carlson, that ran Voice of America, that is in bed with Hungary and Israel-backed NGOs. Yeah, Tucker Carlson, who's hanging out in the Gulf. Tucker, who's hanging out in Russia. Tucker's best friend, JD Vance. Peter Thiel's sugar baby. They thought that by putting him in the sidecar for Trump was going to guarantee his ascension in 2028. I'm sure that when Trump tapped him to be the VP in 2024, they were clinking their glasses and saying cheers to the 48th president of the United States, our puppet JD Vance. What they didn't count on is that Trump ruins everything that he touches. They thought that Trump would be a Trojan horse, Trump would be a vehicle to propel Vance. Trump is Vance's tomb. Trump, and this second term, this is JD Vance's mausoleum. This is where JD Vance for president went to die. Maybe, arguably, he could have been a contender if he was in the Senate for a little while longer, built up his record, maybe put some time in, maybe did some actual work. They really thought they were going to put him next to Trump, and this was going to be his Disney fast pass to the presidency, and then they could get all their contracts for Anduril and SpaceX and OpenAI and Palantir and all that garbage. Israel would get their bombs. They would get everything that they wanted, their charter city in Greenland and wherever. And instead, Trump is an albatross. He is dragging Vance to hell with him. The failure, the vaporware, the scam that is Trumpism, it is dragging JD Vance right to hell with this whole sick thing. And that is the most delicious irony of it all. That's the best part of the whole thing. It's going to be a long ways to go. We got a lot of game left to get to 2028, and it's not getting better. One disaster after the next. No mass deportations. This big, beautiful bill, which is so unpopular and a disaster. This AI regulation moratorium they keep trying to force. All these Chinese students, Indian H-1B workers. Bombing Iran not once but twice. Ukraine war still going on. The job market's terrible. Software industry is taking a dive. Bitcoin is down 50%. Epstein files have exposed all your cronies, Howard Lutnick and Peter Thiel and Reid Hoffman and the Israelis and Trump and the rest of them. And it's only February 2026. We got a long ways to go. You know what I can't wait for? I cannot wait for the Democrats to take the House. They subpoena and investigate Kristi Noem, Lauren, and Corey Lewandowski, and they find so much corruption. It's going to make the impeachments during Trump 1 look like a joke. All that stuff about Paul Manafort and the business documents and the Ukrainian phone call. The corruption that they will discover when the Democrats are in the House, it's going to make all that stuff look like a joke. And they're just going to keep stacking it up on top of Vance. We're going to be in our war with Iran. The Middle East is going to be a mess. The economy is going to be a mess. The Trump administration is corrupt. He might even be impeached. You are fucked. And we are not going to bail you out. Sorry. 2026, I'm telling people to stay home. You know what my message is in 2026? Stay home. We got to vote to get back on track. Fuck you. And the guy that posted it, I like the guy. It's not directed at him, but that sentiment, we got to get everybody back on track. Go fuck yourself. You told us when we wanted the Epstein files, we don't need your votes anymore. Hey, wish granted. Remember that? Remember in July of 2025 when Trump said, if you want the Epstein files, you're not a real supporter. I don't want your vote. Hey, wish granted, pal. Wish granted. You wanted it. You got it. Fuck you. You want to get it back on track? Good luck. Call Netanyahu. That's the part that I love. They sell us out. H-1B visas galore. Student visas galore, no mass deportations, burying the Epstein files. I think Bill Clinton's a great guy. And then in 26, they're going to be begging us for the vote. Hey guys, we need your help. You know, President Trump needs more seats to keep the agenda going. You know what I have to say about that? You're worried about your majority in 2026. You're worried about losing the House. Why don't you ask Bill Clinton for his vote then? Ask Bill Clinton, ask those 600,000 Chinese students, ask the H-1B workers, ask the Israelis, ask Netanyahu for a vote. You gave Netanyahu $20 billion. Ask him to vote for you. You gave Wall Street the corporate tax cut extension. Why don't you ask them for the vote? You know, ask them. Go and bother them with your campaign ads. Don't bother us, because we still have illegal immigrants in our cities. We still have rampant crime in our cities. The job market still sucks. We're not richer. Our purchasing power has not increased. Go ask somebody else, because we are not interested. We do want to burn it all down. Correct. You don't want our vote? Wish granted. You're not getting it this time. 2028, if you can field the candidate that is America first, if you can field the candidate that is not a fat, disgusting pig, if you can field the candidate that is like MAGA, OG, America first, consider it, maybe. But not in 26. We're done with that. So that's your immigration situation. I saw Ramsey Paul, that old beta male. Ramsey Paul says, I didn't vote for this. In 2024, he was chastising me for not voting for Trump. You literally voted for this. And you were attacking anybody that didn't. This is exactly what you voted for. So congrats, everybody. And anyone that was a real follower of mine, anybody that was actually loyal, anyone that actually trusts me and my record and my judgment, you have the moral high ground of not having fallen for this. I think I got a pretty good record. I told people not to get vaccinated. I told people not to vote for Trump. Pretty good record, huh? Wouldn't you say? But some of you, you didn't trust my plan. You trusted Trump's plan. Now you look like an idiot. You participated in your own demise. You fell for it. You didn't listen. I was making the arguments. I was showing you the evidence. You didn't listen because you're a dummy. You thought you knew better. You got captured by emotion, sentiment, propaganda. It is what it is. We're going to move on. We're going to take a look at our super chats. We'll cover the Iran stuff tomorrow or maybe Monday, I guess. We're going to take a look. We'll see what you guys have to say about all this. That's all I really have to say. It's just incredible how people deceive themselves, It's amazing. Because as I said, all of this, it was obvious from the very beginning, and I spelled it out from the very beginning. There was no really good counter argument, but people just went with it. They just didn't think that far ahead. It's not complicated. Like, this stuff is really, once you get a sense of it, it's pretty easy to understand. And even if you can't come up with it on your own, I do a pretty good job of breaking it down. People just didn't want to hear it. So they said, oh, well, I'm a plan truster and you're disloyal. And okay. Hey, suit yourself. You want to live in fantasy land? You want to pretend it's like 2018 still? This like loyalty to Trump thing? Okay. Good luck. So that's the state of the play. All right, we're going to move on. Let's take a look at these super chats. Let's see what we got. Let me get set up here. Vindicated on everything. OnlyFans wife. Iran, immigrant. How does one man do it? I literally predicted the Iran war, like how the whole thing played out. I predicted the lack of deportations, exactly how that played out. I predicted that we would all get an OnlyFans wife. I predicted low IQ conspiracy theories with Charlie Kirk. All right. Let's see what we got here.
As you can see, we're doing something a little bit different today. We are in Napa. Yeah, we're in Napa. Dope energy out here. So that's why the camera is a little bit of a different setup, but neither here nor there. Let's get into the show. So more of the same. More of the same when it comes to the disappointing Trump presidency. Like, part 2 has been a disappointment. And it's very simple. He's just not delivering on the things that he said he would deliver on. We fell for a lot of the performative rhetoric. And in a lot of ways, what it reminds me of is how a lot of the victim groups, or I should say Black people, fall victim to the Democrat Party. This is the same type of energy you fall victim to during the campaigns and during the debates. Oh, we're going to give y'all reparations. We're going to do all these different things for you. Like those evil people on that side, they use the performative rhetoric to almost not necessarily focus on the things that they're standing for, but the things that they're standing against. And I think a lot of people fall victim to that because it can be emotionally engaging. And it's the same thing when it comes to Trump and Tom Homan. Everything was against look at what they did with the illegal migration. They're trying to import the next voter base, all these different things. And it was a fight against those things. And everybody got riled up because for a lot of different reasons, but one in particular, especially when it comes to Nick and who Nick appeals to, young, disaffected white men, but just people in the country overall that feel like, yo, where's this country going? The country's not serving the actual people in America. The country, our government is not serving Americans. Here we are struggling, stressed out, getting stretched thin in a lot of different areas, but then we're just going to bring in 10 million people. We don't have the infrastructure for it. And what a lot of people got caught up in, and perhaps this is one with me. Now, I was a RFK guy, then transitioned to Donald Trump when RFK got on board with the team. But what a lot of people got caught up with is, I'm just not with all this woke stuff. A lot of people were just furious about where the country was going with a lot of the woke stuff. Like you look at California, and we talk about this all the time, but it's the same things. But this is how important a lot of this stuff can play a role, I should say, how significant it can be in playing a role where, we don't like the fact that all these Democratic politicians can't even say what a woman is, can't even say whether or not a man can get pregnant. We don't like where everything's moving in this direction of trans, and you got deport the police, you got California, the teachers don't have to tell parents that their kids are socially transitioning, boys playing sports against girls, the direction of all this. People were just furious when it comes to that from a cultural standpoint. So then what Nick is saying, maybe a lot of people didn't pay attention to the other things when it came to what Donald Trump was promising. People didn't pay attention to the money that was coming on board to him, whether it's Elon Musk, whether it's the other guy that Nick mentioned in big banking that gave hundreds of millions. I think he gave 200 million, I think Nick said, and then Elon gave, 250? Apologies if my numbers are off. Yeah, I think that's what he mentioned. No different than Miriam Adelson. We got to be focused just as much on where other money is coming in, just as if it's coming in from Israel. It's very clear when Israel gives money, hey, they're looking for something and they're looking to buy Trump's loyalty towards Israel and to be able to, for Israel to have our backing in everything that they want to do in that region. It's the same thing when it comes to Elon putting up a couple hundred million, whether the banker putting up a couple hundred million. These elites that are giving Donald Trump money, they're expecting something in return. And perhaps a lot of us didn't pay attention to those because we were so focused on the rhetoric of everything. And this is why I said it reminds me of the Democratic Party appealing to whatever victim group they're targeting at that particular time. So this is a lot of the energy. It's going to set up, Nick properly pointed out, I don't know what JD Vance is doing. JD Vance trying to condemn Nick, I don't know if that's the best thing. And I don't even know who exactly you're getting pressure from to condemn Nick Fuentes. I know that he says certain things about your wife and all that, so it could be from a personal standpoint. But from a logical standpoint, it doesn't make sense for JD Vance to be calling out Nick Fuentes. Who do you think you're going to be counting on to vote for you next time? JD Vance doesn't give off the neocon, pledge my allegiance to Israel vibes. That's never been his energy. So if that's not his energy, unless he's just going to completely shift like Donald Trump did, which I don't think that he can win, on standing on that. Now, the mob is fickle. We understand all these things. So he's going to have to switch some things up, because just going based off of who we know JD Vance as, because he doesn't have the long experience when it comes to politics, he was just, Peter Thiel and all the other elites that were behind pushing JD Vance, getting him this book deal, Netflix deal, and then all of a sudden he's the vice president. what does he have to stand on besides Donald Trump's record? So now you alienate Nick Fuentes, the Groypers, people that are on that side as far as just, we don't want the government controlled by Israel, which is actually what JD Vance seems to be standing on more than, or I don't want to say standing on, because obviously he's fallen back when it comes to Donald Trump's leadership. But JD Vance, out of everybody that Donald Trump seems to be still rocking with, he's the one that is least locked in when it comes to the support for Israel. At least that's our perception. So what is he going to run on? Now he's going to have to run and say, well, yeah, Donald Trump made all these mistakes. So now you're going to lose out all of Donald Trump's followers, the MAGA, the neocons, the Mark Levins, the Randy Fines, and all these other people, the Lindsey Grahams. Now you're going to lose out on all those because they know that you're not rocking with Israel like that, unless you're now going to pledge some sort of allegiance to them. And now you're going to alienate Nick Fuentes and his followers. Who's going to vote for JD Vance? Who realistically is going to vote for JD Vance? JD Vance could be one of the most balanced people when it comes to what the conservatives are looking for. He actually may be one of the balanced people, one of the most balanced politicians. However, it's going to backtrack. It's going to backfire on him because it's like Trump has just decided to go all in when it comes to Israel. Like, he's just supporting Israel. That is what it is. He's leaning in, and he has a lot of supporters because of that. Now, he also has a lot of people that were supporting him, calling him out, but he still has a lot of people supporting him for those things. JD Vance, who is he going to have? He's the person in the middle that's lost and now has to criticize the person that is responsible for him being a vice president and who has a lot more aura, a lot more sway, a lot more everything than JD Vance. Who is JD Vance? So he may think that this is the right thing. I don't know what type of pressure, or whether it's just a personal thing with his wife, them deciding to, or him, with Nick saying certain things about his wife. Now he's deciding to condemn him, but I don't see how that's a good strategic play. I don't see where that lands JD Vance in a position to where he's going to be the favorite. They could damn near set something up with JD Vance where he's just primary. Perhaps one of the best things that JD Vance could do is to push against Donald Trump. Now, I know this is a very risky play, but he needs to make it clear in certain ways that he is not on board with the things that Donald Trump is doing. Yes, I'm here to serve as the vice president. I serve my president. However, I need to be very clear. These are not the things that I'm pushing for. These are not the things that I'm pushing for. I don't know how he does that without completely turning on Trump right now, but it has to be clear. It has to be clear for his career, because Donald Trump's not concerned with JD Vance's career. Donald Trump is concerned with Donald Trump and his agenda. Now, JD Vance, he could be the loyal servant as the vice president to the president, but we'll see where that lands you. JD Vance could go from vice president to promising politician who, could have taken the baton from Donald Trump and now do the next 8 years as the president. He could possibly go from all that promising career to being absolutely nothing. Being absolutely nothing. Now he's going to run against Gavin Newsom or whoever else the Democrats put out there. And based on Trump's administration, what they're doing right now, let's say Gavin Newsom wins. We may never hear from JD Vance again. Peter Thiel and the elites, they may decide that, hey, we got to put somebody else out there. JD Vance is no longer the vehicle that can get us from this destination to where we're trying to go. JD Vance is in a difficult position. So let me get back to the notes. I know Nick was mentioning that this interview with Donald Trump, I saw a couple different clips from the interview with NBC that he did. And my thoughts are almost, if Donald Trump would have just presented this balanced person before, maybe it would have just been better for a lot of people. But I don't know whether his bitterness or whether it was just strategy, him using all this performative rhetoric with him and Tom Homan, the things that they're going to do, they're going to deport illegal migrants. If you just being here illegally, you're a criminal. That makes you a criminal. So therefore, we're going after everybody, to him changing and softening his approach. I actually appreciate Donald Trump changing his approach when it comes to acknowledging that Alex Preddy and Rene Good, hey, that was a sad situation. I actually appreciate that human quality coming out of Donald Trump. The problem is, bro, why weren't you aware of this before? You didn't think that you sending in a bunch of ICE agents, 100 people, like Nick said, going into one building, using trying to create a highlight tape, having Christy Noem look like a goof out here. Like, it just seemed like so performative. Everything was just performative and not substance-based. Everything was not efficient. You could have done these deportations without being all aggressive and trying to be performative and actually execute it and having more of the country behind you. People understand that there's an illegal migration problem, but let's do what makes sense. Now you're all of a sudden realizing that we should just go after the criminals first? Absolutely. So the problem was where y'all started out, and now y'all got to backtrack. So where y'all started out was so aggressive. Now what do? You have fans on your team and you have fans on the other side. So the people that are supporting you because you're aggressive and they're emotionally getting behind it, now they're arguing with the other side about why we need to be aggressive, why it's okay for people to be masked up, to go in and have these raids and be very aggressive. Now Donald Trump backpedaling, he got his people that were rocking with him, pushing for this stuff, now looking stupid. Now looking like, whoa, we were pushing for this. We were arguing with our friends and family over this stuff. We were standing on it. Now Donald Trump, now all of a sudden he's taking a step back and softening his stance, which you should have just done in the beginning. Because you not getting everybody riled up, it could have been approached in a different way. Maybe you wouldn't have had these protests because you wouldn't have had the toxicity or radicalness on both sides because you're being so radical in your approach and your energy with what you were trying to execute. Now on the other end, now those people are getting radicalized. Now you have the Alex Preddy that may be going to a protest, or Rene Good going to a protest pissed off, and the energy just isn't there. Now you don't have the energy is getting escalated to create the type of situations and environment that lead to what we've seen happen out there. Maybe if you didn't have all this aggressive energy, it would have made sense, and these Democratic politicians would have just looked like fools if they don't now have the police supporting you. You could have had a balanced approach and had the backing of the police to prevent a lot of these different situations. Hey, this is what we're trying to do. We know, even if you use the performative rhetoric with the election, this is what we need to do. We need in order to execute this to be the safest for everybody involved in this process, we need the help of the police. We can't do this without the help of the police. We need the politicians on board. We need everybody. But instead, all the performative rhetoric, now Tim Walz now people on the other side actually don't even get mad at Tim Walz for not having the mayor there as well, for not having the police involved. People should be pissed off. Like, even if you're a Democrat, you should be pissed off that Tim Walz would hold back the police, or whoever is responsible for holding back the police, from working with ICE. But they want this chaos. They want to create these environments to where they look more heroic against Trump rather than just executing something that's safe for the community, because that's what it comes down to. So let's keep going. And Nick pointed it out. Trump overpromises, then overdelivers, and then gaslights us, but then trying to act like he's doing what he always said he would do. We saw this with the Epstein files. We're seeing it with the deportations. We're seeing this perhaps even with Israel. We're seeing this across the board. Trump, this is not what people voted for you for. Now, I know Nick said, well, this is exactly what you voted for, but you weren't paying attention. Nick may be 100% correct when it comes to that. But this is not what Trump was selling us on. Now, I agree with Nick. People should have followed the money, paid closer attention to the things happening behind the scenes rather than what just was presented to us in Trump's sales pitch, in his administration's sales pitch. But this is going to come back to bite Trump in the butt, man. Or maybe not come back to bite Trump, but it's going to come back to hurt the Republican Party, and in particularly JD Vance, for all the reasons that we already discussed. Just think about it. Here we got, and this is something that Nick said, he's ready to burn down everything. That isn't Thomas Massie. Thomas Massie is the only person standing on business. Thomas Massie looks amazing in this situation. Matter of fact, Thomas Massie, this may be an opportunity for Thomas Massie to really take off. I don't know if he can win the Republican nominee without having the support of Israel and that backing. But as I'm saying it and as I'm thinking about it, I think that there's an opportunity there. I think that there's a respect that has been gained for Thomas Massie standing on principle, standing on business that a lot of people would get behind. And not only a lot of Republicans would get behind, but a lot of moderate and of the non-radical Republicans, like the non-radical Democrats, the moderate Democrats. And I think even if Democrats, may not see themselves as moderate, but more, solid Democrats, whatever that would be called, even some of the, I was going to say, I don't know about the socialist Democrats, but a lot of common sense people, I think, would get on board with Thomas Massie's message. I think a lot of people will respect it. I think where things get escalated, where it's this Trump derangement syndrome, is based on a lot of the performative rhetoric that causes a lot of the chaos, causes a lot of the toxicity based on feeling the need to push something in a radical way when you're marketing your pitch, your sales, your product. So I just look at, Stephen Miller retweeting Lindsey Graham. Is that really is that really the energy that Donald Trump is looking for in his administration? And Nick brings up a point. Trump's old. What's Stephen Miller and JD Vance's excuse? What's going to be their excuse as to why they couldn't execute, as to why they couldn't help the administration execute? Just look at it. Failed with the deportations, failed ending the Ukraine-Russia war, failed bringing peace to Palestine and Israel, failed overall to not be bullied and look like a puppet of Israel. That obviously has been a big thing. Failed with the Epstein files. And going back to what Nick said, as far as Trump's strategy with gaslighting us, it's like you stand strong on certain things, you don't do it, but then you gaslight us to say, well, this is what it was all the entire time. Trump was calling out people that were pressing him about the Epstein files, because it's almost like, hey, you're the kid in the class, like, hey, teacher, you said you were going to do these things, but don't tell me what I said. That's the Trump's energy. And he's saying, we don't even want your support. Very selfish stance on his behalf, because Trump is not about you. It is about you, I guess, to you, but to a lot of others, it's about the party, it's about the agenda, it's about the policies that need to be pushed. But Donald Trump is like, I don't need your support. Forget the midterms. I ain't thinking about that. I already won. He's actually pushing people to not support because they're asking for the things that he said he would deliver on. And maybe if Trump would have just released it and just said, you know what, I'm going to be a man of my word. There's a lot of things in this file that we're getting ready to release that I don't like about myself, that I don't like were presented. Now, Trump could say, these are not true, these are whatever. I'm going to release them anyway, because I promised and gave my word that I would release them. And I'm not going to look at this from a standpoint of just what's about me. If I'm in the files, then I'll address that accordingly to whatever comes out. But we're releasing these files because we gave y'all our word we were releasing those files. They came out regardless, Trump. That was just a bad strategic move. This was one of the things that you could have got in front of. And instead of looking like you're hiding something, especially with Elon Musk putting out, hey, the reason why we're not releasing the Epstein files is because Donald Trump's in them, you could have got in front of that. You could have been the person that people give grace to. Remember, the mob is fickle, and people are people respect people that put things out because they gave their word, even though what they're putting out may put them in a compromising position. People respect that. And people would stand on that and support that. But now it's like, you look crazy. You look crazy. You look like you were trying to hide something, and in the process, you pissed off a lot of your followers. So, yeah, there's that. Let me get to the notes a little bit. I think that may be about it for y'all. That may be about it. This was a straightforward episode from Nick. Straightforward episode, calling out the things that we know need to be called out, calling out what's right in front of our face. And it's going to be a tough road for JD Vance. That's the biggest takeaway from this show. It's going to be a very tough road for JD Vance. Donald Trump has crippled JD Vance in a lot of ways. And maybe this, because there's opportunity in everything. Maybe this will bring an opportunity for JD Vance to kind of separate himself from a lot of the things that Donald Trump is doing and pushing. You look at it almost as, what does JD Vance have to lose? I mean, he got a lot to lose, but he's already lost. It's already over. If you're now associated with Donald Trump, it's already over. Now, I say all that, and once again, even with me saying all that, I have to always remind ourselves of how things can happen so quickly and how things can turn on the drop of a dime. Things can always turn. So we could be saying all this, and then JD Vance runs and he starts to make all these different promises, and the other side is pushing all the radical stuff they push on the other side, to where JD can now just come out and maybe just say 2 years from now and just say, you know what, or 3 years, whatever he's running, there's always an opportunity there to correct things, and the mob is always fickle. So even though we'll sit here and say he's destroying JD Vance's chances, there's always an opportunity to regain people's trust, especially when they hate the other side. And maybe that's a lot of the strategies that we see on both sides, which is why they try to just say, hey, we're just going to make you hate the other side so much to where you're not holding us accountable, because you're going to choose from the lesser of two evils. So on that note, let me get out of here. I'm going to get out in Napa, enjoy a little bit of this before we head down to San Francisco. And I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all day. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Let me know in the comments who you got winning the Super Bowl. Let me know in the comments who you got winning the Super Bowl. And of course, as y'all always do, let me know in the comments where I'm completely wrong, where I'm off. But don't just let me know I'm off, I'm wrong. Explain it to me. All right? I'm always down to learn, and I'm always approaching things. I try to always approach things with the understanding that, hey, I may be completely wrong in this. So it won't be the first time, won't be the last time. But either way, appreciate y'all. Like, turn your notifications on. Let's control the algorithm, not let the algorithm control us. And I'll see y'all on the next one.
TB, GI, TC. It's the black guy in the corner, but they'd rather see a nigga on the corner. They say I'm stealing Nick's clips like I'm stealing Nick's chick, not knowing that I hit him first week for the lick. I said, Nick, I could post here while you post there. Let's run the ads up, then let's meet up over there. Let's figure out a split that's honorable and fair. Tell me where you trying to take it. Bro, I'll meet you there. 1600 Penn, Wash, DC. Swear I saw the vision riding through the DMV. I envision prayers, but I could do VP. Hillbilly, Elegy, fuck, I look like JD. Shout out my cheat code, Dave and Karen raised me. And my big bro, a nuclear family. And they don't like that. Strong fathers in the crib, BLM fought that. LBJ society created all that. Victimhood mentality, I can't embrace that. And everything they taught in school, assume it's all cap. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Everything I said I'd be, I am that. Ain't no introduction, just some fun facts. In case you were wondering, I am that. I know you heard me hit it 3 times for Dr. Umar. Shout out to Umar, man. We ain't kicking nobody when they down. And shout out to everybody that continues to show love, support, appreciating the message that I'm giving y'all, along with the bro Nick's message. We gonna keep pushing, man. And shout out to the haters too, cause y'all in the comments heavy too. y'all the ones that gave me the inspiration to create this song. They kept saying like, who's the random black guy in the corner? I am.